Good morning, everyone. My name is Norm Horofker, and I'm proud to be the minister of this congregation, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Halifax, established here in 1837. I need to close that door. Can someone close that door for me? Because we've got a bit of an echo. Thank you. So we're having a few technical glitches this morning, as happens from time to time. Among the other things we're adjusting to are new rules for attending the church here in person. There are no limits now on the numbers of people that we can have in the sanctuary, so you're welcome to come back into the sanctuary. If you do, masking is required, but you don't need to notify anyone, Margaret or anyone else, that you're coming in advance. There is no enforced social distancing. You're obviously welcome to sit as far apart from other people as you are comfortable. And if there's, if the sanctuary seems a little crowded, we have set up in the ballroom. So you can sit in the ballroom and watch the service and listen to the service there as well. Okay, Jessica Friesen is our music director. This morning, Charles Fellini is our accompanist. Marie-Claude Leroux is our Director of Religious Exploration. This morning, John Piccolo is our Volunteer Technical Director. As we've done for a while now, we're doing hybrid services, live and broadcast over Zoom. So I remind people in the sanctuary that anything said here, any noise made in the sanctuary, is picked up and sent out over Zoom and recorded. Therefore, I would ask those in the sanctuary to remain quiet. Please don't direct questions to the minister or the music director during the service. And if there's need for conversation, just step outside the sanctuary. Our children are arriving. This is just like old times. For people joining by Zoom, please stay muted until you are part of the service, and I thank you for that. During the service today, the chat function will be open. I invite you to extend our hospitality by saying hello to anyone, especially to someone you may not recognize. If you're not already receiving notifications from our church and you'd like to receive updates on our activities and services, please send an email to minister@uuch.ca. I'm delighted that our children are back with us this morning. And to minimize the potential exposure time, we've moved up the time for children of all ages so that they can leave the sanctuary to go to their space upstairs. And now I'd like to invite Mary Lou to join me up here for the chalice lighting. And I didn't give him any warning, but I'm going to ask Tristan to come up in a minute, if you're willing to do so. So I mentioned that we're having some technical difficulties.
Again.
Audio and video. So we're going to do something a little different with the chalice lighting this morning, which maybe you'll see how it connects with the theme of the service later, I hope. So Mary Lou and McDonald and I will cooperate with the chalice lighting words this morning. Mary Lou, why don't you start?
Here in this space 1 week ago, we extinguished the chalice, ending that service. The old candle, now cold, sits in the chalice, a reminder of the way we have always done things, a faithful old friend ready to be relit and welcome us back into community. But just for this morning, for this Sunday service, we are not going to relight the old candle.
And Tristan, can you come up for a minute? Old rituals are important and they're comforting, but unless we listen to new ideas, along with our rituals will become old, stagnant, and irrelevant, just as candles have become irrelevant except for ceremonial and emergency purposes. So this morning, we're going to remove the old candle from its place of honor. And you have a new candle. Now, there's a little switch on the bottom of that. So, we have a candle made possible by modern electronics. The invention of light-emitting diodes. A candle that celebrates the future. And a candle that doesn't emit carbon dioxide, the greenhouse gas responsible for the climate crisis that we face. So thank you, Tristan.
May our chalice this morning remind us that we do not have to keep doing things the way we always have done them. May the chalice remind us to keep an open mind to the possibility of change and the opinions of others with different perspectives and experiences.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Okay. Marie-Claude has a parable for Time for All Ages this morning, a parable about relationships. And I invite the children to come forward. This is amazing. We haven't had this quote spread out 2 years, eh? It's been 18 months. This is so wonderful. Thank you. Marie-Claude, over to you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's so great to be back in the sanctuary as I get to know. There we go. Hi. All our faces down here. I'm very happy to see you all. Today I'll be sharing,
You can use the mouse too if you want.
a mouse, the parable of the long spoons. It helps with modern technology. So, an elderly woman is nearing the end of her life. As she closes her eyes one night, she sees a bright light and is transported to another realm. She doesn't pass away just then. Instead, she returns to the living world to find that her family is gathered at her bedside. She smiles and whispers to her children, "I have seen the great hereafter." "The great whereafter?" her son asks. "Heaven and hell, I have seen them both." Along the quizzical glances from her children, the elderly woman goes on to explain. "I came upon a door and entered a great hall where a long banquet table was laden with bowls of steaming, fragrant soups and stews. My mouth was watering from the delicious aroma. People filled every chair. But shockingly, they were sickly and moaning with hunger, with barely enough strength to lift their spoons. As I came closer, I realized that each person held a very long spoon. With it, they could reach the feast, but the spoon was too long, though they tried again and again because the handle was longer than their arms. They just couldn't bring the food back to their mouths. So in spite of the abundance of stews and soup before them, they were all starving. She continued, I left this horrid place and opened a new door. Inside, I was surprised to see the very same scene before my eyes. A dining hall filled with a long banquet table, and on that table, another marvelous feast. But instead of moaning with hunger, there was laughter. The people around the table were sitting happily, talking with one another, full from the abundance before them. Just like the first room, these people were holding very long spoons. And as I watched, a woman dipped her spoon into a bowl of stew before her, but rather than struggling to feed herself, she extended her spoon out and fed the man seated across from her. This person now satisfied and no longer hungry, gave thanks and returned the favor, leaning across the table to feed the woman. I suddenly understood the difference between heaven and hell. The old woman said to her family, "It isn't about the qualities of the place or about the abundance of resources, because there can be a lot of stew and soup, but the way that people treat each other. In hell, we would rather go hungry than give the people that we don't care for the pleasure of eating. But in heaven, we feed each other. We put trust in those around us and never go hungry." The end. Thank you, everyone. We're going to join upstairs for our religious exploration program.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Let's do that again, first verse.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
I hear ya.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Before the service itself begins, I have a few announcements. The order of service was sent out over UU Info on Saturday, and it contains more detail on each of the following. I've already mentioned that we're in phase 5 now of our COVID transition plan. We don't have a limit on the number of people who enter and gather, but everyone who does come in needs to wear a mask as regulated by public health. COVID safety is a moving target, so watch for updates on UU Info, please. And speaking of moving targets, at the board meeting earlier this week of the congregation, or this week, last Monday, the decision was made by our board not to require proof of vaccination in order to attend our Sunday services. This is an exception to the rule allowed by the Department of Health, recognizing that church services can be very important and essential for some people. As the minister of this congregation, I support that decision under present circumstances. This involves a risk, but no doubt there are valid arguments to be made to the contrary to the decision the board has taken at this point. But our chief medical officer has acknowledged that those who are not vaccinated are already marginalized. For whatever reason, they've lost faith in the medical system, in government, or political leadership. Our church shouldn't be adding to this polarization and marginalization without considering the alternatives. Radical hospitality can be challenging and uncomfortable. Another announcement, semi-annual general meeting, October the 24th, 2 weeks from today. Please attend, in person or by Zoom. Thanksgiving. So we're not having a Thanksgiving dinner. The logistics of having a sit-down meal under present restrictions is just a bit overwhelming. But we are hoping to have an informal barbecue outside in the backyard. So if you're itching to be with people again, in person, plan on attending that barbecue on Saturday, October the 16th, with a rain date for Sunday, October the 17th. As an essential church function, those attending will need to provide proof of vaccination. As a non-essential church function, pardon me. Those attending will need to provide proof of vaccination. So watch for more details on UU Info in the coming week. If you plan to attend the barbecue, please contact Margaret Galbraith. Margaret has agreed to coordinate the event. And on behalf of all of us longing for some social events again, thank you for taking this on, Margaret. And now, I'd like to introduce Amy. I have a little bit to say, I think. This morning, Amy Moonshadow from our Truth, Healing, and Reconciliation team will help us to acknowledge our evolving relationship with the Aboriginal peoples, the original peoples of this land, Mi'kma'ki. Amy will speak right after Charles presents our prelude. Our music director, Jessica Friesen, was planning to be with family in New Brunswick for Thanksgiving. And arrangements were made to have Charles, who is a wonderful musician and friend of the congregation, to fill in on the keyboard. And at the last minute, the rules changed. Jessica was not able to go to New Brunswick. So this morning we have them both with us. To make a long story short, we're very pleased to have Charles with us this morning. Thank you, Charles. Relax now as Charles presents the prelude.
Here at the UU Fellowship in Kipchak, named by the settlers Halifax on the traditional lands of the Mi'kma'ki Maliseet peoples, we must acknowledge our settler history with them, then with the First Nation Aboriginal people who greeted our ancestors a few hundred years ago. We must become in right relationship in our journey forward. Today and tomorrow, we must ask for the compassion to listen and to speak with courage when we are in the company of residential school survivors and their descendants who share their stories. It is our duty moving forward to absorb and learn with wisdom that our hearts, mind, and feet may walk gently and firmly on the way of justice and healing.
And now we have a treat because Charles is going to lead us in the opening hymn with special accompanist, Jessica Friesen. We have the benefit of two musicians this morning. Charles, over to you. Thank you. And now I invite Mary Lou to come up to assist as we take a special time to reflect on our joys and sorrows. This is a sacred time in our service. It's a time that we set apart to honor the many joys and the many sorrows that you, the congregation, are living, and to acknowledge the mutual support of our community. As is our practice, Mary Lou will light one candle for all those who are here with us or in our thoughts, who are struggling mentally, physically, financially, or emotionally. And we'll light a second candle for all the joys that are here in the room, the big joys that come along only infrequently, and the little joys that we are blessed with every day, if we're able to see them. So I would ask if there's anyone in the sanctuary who would like to light a candle this morning. If so, you could come to the lectern here, or I can bring you the microphone if you'd like to speak. Yes. Do you want to come up? Or?
Oh. Hi everyone, Troy Sonia here. I guess my joy is pretty simple. It's being here in person again, and I know there's only a few of us, but it's the start of somewhat returning to normal in this new age. So just really nice to see people face to face again.
Thank you, Troy, and it goes without saying that we're happy to see you and the family. It's just wonderful to have the children back with us. So each week I invite anyone who would like to light a candle to email me with details. And this morning on Thanksgiving, I'm not aware of any requests for candle lighting, which is probably a good thing. You know, people are doing okay. So I want to light one more candle representing our Thanksgiving as a community. Later, when we stop the live streaming on YouTube and before the coffee hour begins, I'll invite anyone else to share a joy or a sorrow and have a candle lit if they would like to do so. May the joys and sorrows, those acknowledged here this morning and those held in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, weave us together in the interdependent fabric that is our beloved community. And now, our reflective hymn.
So just to let you all know, our slides aren't working for the words, so just please sit back and relax and enjoy the music if you don't know the lyrics.
In Gatherings by Marta Valentin. In gatherings we are stirred like the leaves of the fall season rustling around sacred trees, tossed hither and yon until we come to rest together, quietly, softly. We come to gather strength from each other. We come to give strength to each other. We come to ask for strength from the Spirit of all that is and is not. When our hearts sing or when they frown, it is the way of compassion telling us to give. It is the way of peace telling us to share our gifts. For we are happiest and most powerful when love is made apparent in and through us. Spirit of the circle that is love, as we twirl in this dance that is life, we give thanks for reminding us each day of our task of ministering to each other with a searching glance, a safe touch, a generous smile, a thoughtful word. Thank you for reminding us that we are always building our beloved community. Thank you for reminding us that through our covenant with each other, we are made whole. In gratitude, we celebrate with open hearts and minds. We discover who we are, separate from each other and within one another. In this circle that holds all life, may we ever work toward widening the boundaries until there are none.
Thank you, Mary Lou. I repeat these words of Marta Valentin. When our hearts sing or when they frown, it's the way of compassion telling us to give. It's the way of peace telling us to share our gifts. For we're happiest and we're most powerful when love is made apparent in and through us. Welcome to our Thanksgiving Sunday service, the second Thanksgiving in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic. Thanksgiving and pandemics don't go well together. I think pandemics give us little to be thankful for, of course. The loss of life has been tragic, the loss of employment, the loss of community, the loss of social connection and touch. But we can be grateful for so much. For the science that made the vaccines possible with unprecedented speed. We can and do thank our medical care system and our professionals, the people who go to work every day on our behalf to keep us safe. And we can be thankful for the wealth of our nation and the willingness of our political leaders to take decisive action to cushion the effects of job loss and other impacts on society. And we can be so thankful for the willingness of the population at large to go along with restrictions that 2 years ago I would have thought unthinkable. And we can be thankful to one another, the Universalist Unitarian community of Halifax, for keeping this community functioning and vital and ready to resume post-COVID with enthusiasm when the time comes. This morning I'm going to try to connect some disparate ideas around the theme of Thanksgiving. Homelessness, LED chalice lights, winter, and church budgets. I set myself a challenge to link those all. When I first thought about planning a Thanksgiving service several weeks ago, I was thinking about our theme for the month of October, cultivating relationships. It's hard for me to be thankful for my good fortune. It's hard to do that if I have a relationship with others who are suffering. It seems selfish. At a time when some say I should be celebrating my Thanksgiving, what is my relationship with those who have no decent place to live? There's a picture on the cover of the Order of Service. I hope you got to see it. It's from a recent confrontation between our city police and protesters who are trying to prevent the dismantling of some simple shelters for those who had no decent place to live. When I ask myself, what is my relationship to the homeless, I keep seeing this image. These police officers are acting on my behalf, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Halifax. Does that represent my relationship with the homeless? I can't begin to attempt to propose solutions to the homeless problem that we have in this city. It's far too complicated for a Sunday sermon, and I frankly don't have the expertise or the relationships to begin that task. But I will say the root of the problem is spiritual. It's a matter of our relationship one to another. It's a matter of care for and compassion for those at the margins. As discouraging as that image was, it was also uplifting to see the number of people who put themselves on the line to try to prevent that injustice. And who are these people? They were primarily young adults. And here's where I take heart and give thanks. It's the young who, although they might not use the term, they see the spiritual problem at the heart of our social problems. The young adults call a spade a spade. This is an injustice. This isn't right. This is a stain on our society. It's the young voices that become the prophetic voices, the voices at the rallies, the voices at the marches, the voices taking public stands. That's not to say there aren't many social activists who are no longer young and whose input is valued and respected and appreciated and thanked. But the torch must inevitably be passed to the young. It's the young adults who will have to lead the way into the future, and that's undeniable. So when I thought about the chalice lighting this morning, I wanted to use it as a metaphor for the problems of bringing about change. When we become comfortable with the way things have always been done. I like the aesthetics of a classic paraffin or beeswax candle. But I could learn to relax, to step back, to let a new generation find an entirely different way to light a chalice. And Mary Lou would remind me that lighting the chalice is a relatively new addition to our faith tradition in any case. Maybe there's a better way that speaks to the young. Maybe a way that provides a new metaphor, a new image that could attract new ideas. The torch, in this case the chalice, must inevitably be passed to our youth. There is an alternative. We can shrivel and die. Unitarian Universalism can become a memory. Do we wait until we, the establishment, are too old to defend our positions? Or do we step back willingly and encourage the young to step forward? Take a moment now to think about how we either encourage or discourage the young voices in our society, while Charles presents our interlude. And Charles has selected some music by the amazing singer-songwriter Pink. And Pink is not from my generation. And one of the wonderful things about doing a sermon, even if it is late on Saturday, putting it together, is the internet. So I went down the rabbit hole watching videos of Pink. And if you haven't done that, you need to do that. amazing. Although I don't think she would consider herself a youth any longer, her music and her incredible athletic and gravity-defying performances leave me in awe, and they continue to inspire as they push the limits of what is possible. Over to you, Charles. Thank you so much. That's all I know so far. That's the title of the song. And it was written by Pink for her daughter, to inspire her daughter. I can't imagine having Pink for your mother. What, if that isn't inspiring enough, I don't know. Anyway, now for the inspiring portion of my reflection. The semi-annual general meeting and church budgets. Pay attention. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be gathered here for our semi-annual general meeting, and your board will present a budget for the year 2022. We've had 2 years of incredible difficulty for a close-knit community like ours, a community who loved getting together on Sundays in person, who looked forward to the relief of stimulating discussions at coffee hour, following the challenges of sitting through a Sunday service with the minister, who loved to give and receive hugs among people who had known that kind of intimate sharing for decades in this comfortable space. We've weathered those challenges amazingly well thus far. And we actually ended last year, the first year of the pandemic, with a slight financial surplus, thanks to the generosity of the congregation and the good stewardship of our board. But that's not likely to be the case this year, in year 2. But we shouldn't be discouraged. This time has been particularly unforgiving. You can think of this period as a kind of winter. It's not a time of growth, but it's also not a time of despair. It's a time to make plans for the spring that is coming. We have a wonderfully inspiring theology that's captured in our principles and sources. We have a proud history of leadership and social change. And we have this wonderful building in downtown Halifax. And we have the experience, the wisdom, and the resources of our elders. Now's the time for us to be planning how to pass along this legacy to the next generation. We know that we've not been successful to date in attracting a lot of young people to our congregation. So we have to learn and have the courage and be willing to try and to fail to find ways to do things differently that speak to the people who are taking over. We have to make becoming attractive to youth a priority, even at the expense of things that older members are extremely fond of doing. That'll require that we listen without interrupting, that we allow new voices to lead us in new directions. We need a diversity of voices and energies and ideas, some of which will seem strange, if not totally crazy, when first heard. This isn't the time for winding things down. This is the time to prepare for growth with a new generation, to pass on what we have, to make an investment and a gift to the optimism and the enthusiasm of youth. So I leave you with a challenge to ponder. It would take time and effort and optimism and commitment, but we should be working towards having at least half of the members on the board of this congregation under 35 years of age by our annual meeting in 2023. There's my challenge. We've got a year and a half to get our act together, to make ourselves attractive, to find a way to encourage some younger people to get involved with the leadership of the congregation. That's not to say we don't have younger members now, but we got to face the fact that they're in the minority, and when you're in a minority situation, it's difficult to get your position across. So I leave you with that message. I hope it's an encouraging message at a time when things can look difficult. Winter's setting in, but spring is around the corner. May it be so, and amen. I'll just say a few words and then you can scoot in. So during pre-COVID times, the collection we took up in each service was given away to the service of our community. And one of the beneficiaries of that process was the free Saturday brunch program here at the church. With COVID restrictions, our Saturday brunch team had to pivot from providing a full sit-down hot buffet lunch to providing a brown bag prepared lunches with coffee for takeout. And our Saturday brunch team has done and continues to do an absolutely wonderful job serving our neighbors in this stressful time. Invited Phil Silver with us this morning. Phil is the face of our brunch program. He's at the door. He hands out the bags. He sees everyone that comes to the front door, greets them with a smile, and he knows what's going on and what people like in their brown bags and what they don't. So Phil, I think you have some words for us.
Thank you. Morning, everybody. Morning, everybody in Zoom and YouTube. It's so nice to be back here again. We're doing not bad for the brunch. You know, we have some new people too that come here and get some, but it's nice to have it back on the swing of things again. That you get to know everybody, and you know, like Norm says, whatever they like in their lunch or whatever what they don't like, you know, we can do that little challenge too. So I'm not going to keep you too long, but I want to say if you can reach down in your pocketbook, and we could really use the help again because, like I said, we get a little bit more of people coming, some new ones coming here, and we need all the help we can get. If you can, you know, find it in your heart to, you know, give some more money to help us out a lot to keep this going, because winter's coming up now. I want to make sure we get something going on for everybody that it'll keep them, you know, fed and warm. That's it for me. Thank you.
If you wanted to make a contribution to the church, to the Saturday brunch program, you can do that. The information is right there by sending an e-transfer to treasurer@uuch.ca, or leaving a check with the church, putting a check in the mail. Either way. So thank you very much. And now Charles will lead us in our closing hymn, along with Jessica. Closing hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
So I know you all know this song, so sing along with me. Love will guide us, peace us guide us, hope inside us.
We'll lead the way on the road from green to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give on, deep within you. You can change the world with your love.
Love will guide us, ready?
Love will guide us. Hope inside us. Hope inside us. Lead the way on the road. Love will guide us to the hard night.
Love will guide us.
So I'll extinguish the chalice in our sanctuary until we gather again. But first, these words. Our perception of justice too often exceeds our readiness to risk the partial justice of the present order for the sake of a more inclusive justice. With that knowledge of our limitations, may we never lose hope or the courage to move ourselves toward a world with more compassion, more justice, and more love. May it be so, and amen. Well, thank you all who attended the service today. Thanks especially to the parents who brought their children to the service today. Thanks to those here in the sanctuary or watching on Zoom or on YouTube. We'll say goodbye now to those who joined us by YouTube, and we'll end our live streaming. For those who joined by Zoom, in a few minutes we'll return to sharing joys and sorrows, followed by our virtual coffee hour. Thank you again. The streaming service will now end.